He has lived the life of a homeless man so that he could tell us their story so that we could learn something from them. He is Father Paul Mast, and this is the Delaware Way. Hello and welcome to the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Menti, and I'm very proud to introduce you to Father Paul Mast, who is author of this book, Street Sabbatical. It is time that he has spent on the streets and with the homeless and in homeless shelters and the life lessons that you learned and are passing along. How did you start on this journey?
By providence. I was in Washington August 27th of last year, and I met a homeless Iraq war veteran. He was holding a plastic cup full of coins, and he said, "Sir, do you have any spare change?" And I said, "I do. How much do you need?" And he said, $1.79. I was taken back by that. And I said, "What will that do for you?" And he said, "It will help to upgrade my smart card so I can return to my aunt's home in Suitland." And I said, "For your honesty, follow me down to the machines." And I put $5 on his card. And then I asked, "Do you have some time to talk?" And we walked to the other side of the metro station. And I said, "My name is Paul." And he said, "I'm Dwayne." And I said, "Can you tell me your story about how you ended up begging at the top of the escalator?" And he said he was an Iraq war veteran. He's been in and out of work. He's been out of work for over 10 months. And so that's his spot. He comes in every day and asks for change just so he can get to and from Suitland every day. And I said, "I'm a Catholic priest, and tomorrow I begin a sabbatical. Do you know what that is?" And he said, "Yes, sir, I think it's like time off of work." I said, "Exactly." I said, "I haven't had one in 42 years, so I'm looking forward to this. But I have no plans. I have no idea what I want to do. And I'm open after hearing your story. Do you have anything to suggest to me?" And he said, "Well, Reverend, you seem somebody comfortable talking with the homeless and the poor. Not only did you upgrade my smart card, but you paid me enough dignity that you wanted to hear my story, gave me your name, I gave you my name. There was some friendship between us. So why don't you spend your time doing with other homeless and street people what we have just done, and see what life lessons we could teach you that you could pass on in your preaching." And my heart clung to every one of his words. And we shook hands, and I thanked him for his risk-taking, his boldness, his kind of openness. But that seed was sown in me that right then and there, that's how I would spend my sabbatical time.
Have you thanked him? Have you been back to see him?
I have been back to the Smithsonian Metro stop, I would say 4 or 5 times, never seen him again. And after the third visit, and we did not cross paths again, the thought occurred to me that he was probably an angel, and God put him in my path to sow that seed in me. Yes.
And that seed has sprung into this book, and I'm sure much more than that. You have learned more about the homeless probably than 99.9% of the people out there by walking in their shoes and living among them. Is there a common thread? Is there something you can tell us about the homeless that we don't know?
Number one, they only want to be treated as human beings. So people who have read the book have said to me, "Father Mast, what label do you suggest we replace for homeless?"
Right, because you hate that label.
I don't hate it. I see it as a path to initiate a conversation, to awaken people's imagination and hearts to another option. And so my response to them is, why do we need to...
Why do you not want to use that label? Why do you dislike the label, if that's the right term?
It dehumanizes the person. My journeys and my encounters with them awakened me to the deeper truth that labels belong on bottles and cans and not on people. And when we apply the label to them, we dehumanize them. We rob them a little bit more of their dignity. But yet it's a label that can open new doorways to awareness and interior growth in people and change in behaviors. So in that respect, it has good potential, okay? But my response to them is, why do we need to replace one label with another label? And then they'll come back at me and say, then what do we call them? And I'll say, first of all, they're a person whose story is different from yours and mine. But first, they're a person.
It's important to point out that you lived their life, that you went to homeless shelters, that you ate what they ate, that you really got to know them and live their life. Is there, and you've met so many people, and now I don't know what to say, homeless, you met so many people with these stories. Mm-hmm. Is there one that you can share that maybe grabbed you more than any of the other ones that sticks with you?
Yes. His name was Greg. I was on the streets of San Francisco on a idyllic, beautiful Sunday afternoon last September. The Giants were playing in one stadium, the 49ers were playing in another. And I was walking down the street, kind of minding my own business, and this gentleman tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Sir, can you spare some change?" I said, "Yes, I can. How much do you?" "Yes, I can." "What do you need it for?" And he said, "I'm hungry and I need something to eat." I looked across the street and there was a Carl Jr.'s burger stand there. And it was 12:30 in the afternoon. So I said, "I'd be happy to treat you to lunch and enjoy your company. So why don't you walk with me over to the fast food restaurant and I'll treat you to lunch." And a very serious expression on his face, he said, "Well, I haven't had breakfast yet." And I said, "Okay, I've just walked up from the commuter rail station and I passed the Denny's over on 4th Street. If you'll come with me, I'll treat you to breakfast." And he said, "You would do that for me?" And I said, "Yes, sure." "Why?" And he said, "I'm a stranger to you." And I said, "Well, maybe we're strangers who have not yet become friends, and that could happen over breakfast." "I accept." So on the way, I said to him, "Are you from San Francisco?" He said, "No, I am from the Logan section of Philadelphia."
Wow.
I said, "How did you end up in San Francisco?" 3 years ago, I took a bus and I came out here. I had a good job for a year in construction. I got hooked on drugs and they have ruled my life ever since. And I've lived on the streets. "Are you from San Francisco?" And I said, "No, sir. I live about 90 minutes south of the Logan section of Philadelphia." And he kind of lit up like a Christmas tree. "Well, what are you doing out here?" And I said, "I came to meet you." And by then we had gotten to Denny's, took him in, he ordered a lumberjack breakfast, gobbled it down like a vacuum cleaner. He saved half, opened up a paper napkin, poured the half of it into a napkin, folded it up and put it in his backpack, and I thought, that's his dinner. And then he said to me, "Do you have enough notes on my story?" And I said, "I do." He said, "I'm going to the men's room." And he came back and he picked up his backpack and was out the door before I could even say goodbye. And I was making notes in my notebook so I could retrieve things quickly. And I looked up and he's standing at the table. And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I came back to say thank you." And I thought he was going to say for breakfast. And he said, "For calling me sir. No one has called me that in 3 years, and I have forgotten I'm a person with dignity."
You know, I didn't get a chance, we haven't been able to talk about some of the stereotypes of the homeless. We haven't talked about the media representation of the homeless, and we haven't specifically talked about Wilmington, which you visited in this book. Could you stick around for one more segment so we could talk more about that?
Yes, certainly.
Father Paul Mast when we come right back.